The second half of the 19th century was one of the most important periods in the history of the Indian subcontinent. During this period, political power shifted completely from the East India Company to the British Crown, new educational institutions emerged, modern political ideas began to spread, and different communities started to define their political identities. Among the leading personalities of this age was Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, a scholar, reformer, educator, and political thinker whose ideas profoundly influenced the future course of South Asian history. To understand Sir Syed's reaction to the formation of the Indian National Congress, it is necessary to examine the circumstances in which he lived and worked. The uprising of 1857 had transformed the political landscape of India. The revolt was crushed by the British, and in 1858 the administration of India was transferred from the East India Company to the British Crown. The Mughal Empire, which had existed in one form or another for centuries, came to an end. The last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, was exiled, and British authority became firmly established throughout the subcontinent. The aftermath of the revolt was particularly difficult for Indian Muslims. Many British officials believed that Muslims had played a major role in organizing and supporting the uprising. Whether this belief was entirely justified or not, it led to widespread suspicion of Muslims in official circles. Muslims, who had once occupied influential positions in administration, law, and education, found themselves politically weakened and economically disadvantaged. Many were reluctant to embrace Western education because they viewed it as a threat to their religious and cultural traditions. As a result, they fell behind other communities in acquiring the knowledge and skills necessary for success under the new political order. It was in these circumstances that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan emerged as a leader of Muslim reform. Born in Delhi in 1817, he had witnessed the decline of Mughal authority and the rise of British power. He believed that Muslims could not regain their social and intellectual strength by looking only to the past. Instead, they needed to acquire modern education, learn English, study science, and understand the institutions that shaped the modern world. He devoted his life to promoting these goals. Sir Syed's educational movement eventually became known as the Aligarh movement. Through schools, colleges, journals, and public speeches, he encouraged Muslims to embrace modern learning while preserving their religious identity. His most significant achievement was the establishment of the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College at Aligarh in 1875. This institution later became Aligarh Muslim University and served as a center for the intellectual and political development of Muslim society. While Sir Syed was deeply interested in education, he was also a thoughtful observer of politics. He carefully studied the social composition of India and the relationship between its various communities. He recognized that India was home to people of different religions, languages, customs, and historical traditions. Among these communities, Hindus and Muslims were the two largest groups. Although they lived together in the same country, Sir Syed believed that they possessed distinct social and cultural identities. According to Sir Syed, Muslims were not merely a religious group. They were also a historical community with their own traditions, institutions, and political interests. They had ruled large parts of India for centuries and had contributed significantly to its civilization, culture, architecture, literature, and administration. Therefore, he argued that any future political system in India would have to take account of the separate position and interests of Muslims. In 1885, a new political organization appeared that would soon become a major force in Indian politics. The Indian National Congress was established under the leadership of Alan Octavian Hume, a retired British civil servant, with the support of a number of educated Indian leaders. The Congress aimed to provide a platform through which Indians could express their political concerns and seek greater participation in government. Its early leaders believed that constitutional methods, petitions, and dialogue with British authorities would gradually lead to political reform. Many educated Indians welcomed the creation of the Congress. They regarded it as a national body capable of representing the aspirations of all Indians irrespective of religion or region. In its early years, the Congress demanded greater Indian representation in legislative councils, increased opportunities in government employment, and reforms in administration. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, however, did not share the optimism of the Congress leaders. Although he respected some of its members and agreed with certain reformist objectives, he doubted whether the Congress could genuinely represent all communities of India. His concerns were not based on hostility toward Hindus. Rather, they arose from his assessment of India's demographic and political realities. The central issue for Sir Syed was the question of representation. He feared that if representative institutions were introduced according to the principle of majority rule, Muslims would be placed at a permanent disadvantage. Since Hindus constituted the majority of the population in most parts of India, elected bodies would naturally contain a larger number of Hindu representatives. In such circumstances, Sir Syed worried that Muslim interests might be overlooked or subordinated to those of the majority community. To illustrate his point, Sir Syed often argued that political systems could not simply be copied from one country and imposed on another without considering local conditions. The parliamentary system worked in Britain because British society was relatively homogeneous in political terms. India, however, was a land of diverse communities with different traditions, customs, and aspirations. In his view, a system based solely on numerical majority could generate conflict rather than unity. Sir Syed expressed these ideas openly and repeatedly. One of his most important speeches was delivered at Meerut in 1888. In this speech, he explained why he opposed the Congress's political program. He argued that representative government based on majority rule would inevitably place Muslims in a weaker position. He therefore advised Muslims not to join the Congress and not to support its demands without careful consideration. His opposition to the Congress became stronger as the organization expanded its activities. Congress leaders frequently described themselves as speaking on behalf of all Indians. Sir Syed rejected this claim. He maintained that many Muslims did not support the Congress and that its policies reflected primarily the views of a particular section of educated Indians. At the same time, Sir Syed emphasized that disagreement did not mean hostility. He repeatedly called for peace, mutual respect, and cooperation between Hindus and Muslims. One of his most famous observations was that Hindus and Muslims were like the two eyes of a beautiful bride. Just as a bride needs both eyes to appear complete and beautiful, India required both communities for its prosperity and strength. This statement demonstrated his desire for communal harmony even while he argued for separate political safeguards. An important feature of Sir Syed's political philosophy was his belief that education must come before politics. He felt that many Muslims were not yet prepared to participate effectively in modern political competition. Their educational backwardness, in his opinion, was a more urgent problem than political representation. If Muslims entered politics without first improving their educational position, they would be unable to compete successfully with other communities. Consequently, Sir Syed devoted much of his energy to educational reform. The Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College became the centerpiece of this effort. Students at Aligarh were encouraged to study modern sciences, literature, history, and political thought. The institution produced a generation of educated Muslims who later played important roles in public life. In 1886, Sir Syed established the Mohammedan Educational Conference. The conference sought to promote education among Muslims throughout India. Annual meetings brought together scholars, community leaders, and educators who discussed ways to improve literacy, establish schools, and encourage higher learning. Although educational in purpose, the conference also fostered a sense of unity among Muslims from different regions. As political debates intensified, Sir Syed and his supporters sought to present an alternative perspective to the British government. In 1888, they helped establish the United Indian Patriotic Association. The purpose of this organization was to inform British authorities that the Congress did not represent all sections of Indian society. It sought to communicate the views of those who disagreed with Congress policies, including many Muslims and other groups. Sir Syed's loyalty to the British government has often been the subject of debate among historians. Some critics argued that he placed too much trust in British intentions. Others have defended his position as a practical response to the realities of his time. Sir Syed believed that cooperation with the government would create opportunities for Muslims to improve their educational and social condition. He feared that political confrontation would distract the community from the more urgent task of self-improvement. Whatever one's judgment of his strategy, there is no doubt that Sir Syed's ideas exerted a lasting influence. His emphasis on separate political interests gradually shaped the thinking of many Muslim intellectuals and leaders. Although he never demanded a separate Muslim state, his arguments concerning minority rights, political safeguards, and community representation became important themes in later Muslim politics. The early 20th century witnessed the emergence of new political developments. In 1906, several Muslim leaders founded the All India Muslim League. Many of these leaders had been influenced directly or indirectly by the Aligarh movement. The League sought to protect Muslim political interests and eventually became the principal political organization of Indian Muslims. Over the following decades, debates concerning representation, constitutional reform, and communal relations became increasingly important. Muslim leaders argued for separate electorates and other safeguards to ensure fair representation. These demands reflected concerns that Sir Syed had articulated many years earlier. As political tensions increased during the 1930s and 1940s, some Muslim leaders concluded that constitutional safeguards within a united India would not be sufficient to protect Muslim interests. Under the leadership of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the Muslim League advanced the idea that Muslims constituted a separate nation entitled to political self-determination. This position eventually led to the demand for Pakistan. Historians often note that the intellectual roots of this development can be traced, at least in part, to Sir Syed Ahmad Khan's political thought. While he never proposed the partition of India, he consistently argued that Muslims formed a distinct political community whose interests could not be ignored. In this sense, he is frequently regarded as an intellectual precursor of what later became known as the two-nation theory. It is important, however, to understand Sir Syed in the context of his own time. His primary mission was not the creation of a separate state but the uplift of a community that he believed had fallen behind in education and social progress. His political ideas were closely linked to his educational objectives. He hoped that a modern, educated Muslim community would be able to participate confidently and effectively in the changing world around it. In conclusion, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan reacted to the formation of the Indian National Congress with caution, skepticism, and ultimately opposition. He feared that a political system based solely on majority rule would disadvantage Muslims in a country where they formed a minority. Rather than joining the Congress, he encouraged Muslims to focus on education, social reform, and the development of separate institutions capable of protecting their interests. Through the Aligarh movement, the Mohammedan Educational Conference, and the United Indian Patriotic Association, he laid the foundations of modern Muslim political consciousness in South Asia. His ideas influenced generations of leaders and played a significant role in shaping the political history of the Indian subcontinent. Whether admired or criticized, Sir Syed remains one of the most important political thinkers and reformers of 19th century India, and his response to the Indian National Congress continues to be studied as a key chapter in the history of South Asian politics.